G'day everyone, how you doing? It's Tuesday and that means it's the 9th of the 12th, which means 16, 10, 11, 12, 13, 2 weeks. 2 weeks and 2 days, right? So there'll be 16 days before Santa comes. Wonder, do you celebrate Christmas? What do you do at Christmas? Do you trade at Christmas? There's a good question. Actually, I get asked that question quite a lot. And g'day, Fad. And hi, SF. It varies. It really does vary. And to be absolutely clear, generally what I do last show of the year is shut down and just get away from the charts. But inevitably, I start to get bored. And over the 2 or 3 week period that we're away, it's kind of, I just have a peek, and wonder what's going on. If I see something going on, that I'll actually have a crack at it. But really, really, I do take the 2 weeks off because it's a long year, to be frank, and doing 2 or 3 shows a day and um, sort of goodness knows how many weeks, 48 weeks or something. It's nice to get away from the charts, and perhaps it's a very, very good idea to actually do that if you're not doing it already. I'm not going to preach to anybody because, look, at the end of the day, it's a personal decision. The markets will still be open. They're a little bit tricky at times, I've got to say, because you get tiny little candles, that don't move too much. It can be a very, very boring scenario. But then again, because there's low volume in the market and generally poor liquidity, a move can really actually motor. You can get a fairly decent movement out of it. So if you're on the right side of that, there can be some very, very nice profits to be made. I reckon I'm going to take the 2 weeks off, however. We shall see. Right, what have we got coming up today? Not a whole damn lot, I've got to say. And it's pretty typical of the week. A couple of things. And of course, we did discuss this yesterday. So I won't go through it very, very in depth. We've got tomorrow the Canadian dollar and the Bank of Canada with their rate statement. And of course, their what they call the overnight rate or interest rate, which is tipped, of course, to stay at 0.25, which is, as we speak, kind of a pretty decent exchange rate these days. It was the common exchange rate for quite some time, and now, of course, we find that the Aussie's gone, the yen was already there, the euro was already there. So 0.25 is not such a dusty exchange rate these days. Wow, never thought I'd say that. But there you go. That's the way it is in 2020 and almost 2021. So you've got to respect that. And if they don't move the Bank of Canada, then the interest rate differential on quite a few currencies is substantial. And when that's the case, well, it certainly used to be the case, the disparity in exchange rates was always in favor of that currency whose exchange rate was the greater. So that was always deemed to be a positive thing. Look, I still think that's going to be the case to a degree. And look, the Canadian economy doesn't seem to be in too bad a shape. A lot depends on what oil does, of course. Many tipping that oil will rally and continue to rally, or continue the current rally that it's been enjoying. That, of course, is something beyond my control and beyond my wisdom and area of expertise. I've got no idea what oil will do, frankly. But if you consider, I guess, the fundamental scenario around oil, where well, basically the bottom, the pants were knocked off them, really, with COVID-19. Of course, all the aeroplanes out of the air, no one going to work, all the cars off the road, shutdowns, etc., etc., etc. So the demand for oil was really, really poor. And now, of course, we've got today, I think it was, where the UK have started jabbing people with the Pfizer vaccine, and that's happening throughout Europe. I don't suppose that will take too long to filter its way around the world if indeed we don't have people getting adverse reactions to that vaccine. And of course, the efficacy of it has been tested naturally, whether it's too early or some would say maybe it's too late for certain areas. But yeah, that's yet to be determined. The market's been extremely buoyant on that. And I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon, unless, as I say, there is an adverse reaction from those who are getting the jab. And then we go back into a pretty dismal scenario. But obviously, fingers crossed that doesn't happen. And the market will continue to be buoyant. What that does for currencies, which is kind of my thing, I don't generally trade outside currencies. What that means is probably risk-on currencies are going to do okay. The dollar, probably not so much affected by COVID as what's going on, or everything's a result of COVID, I suppose. The dreadful state of the economy now in the States, the dreadful numbers they're getting through COVID, all of those things are weighing up against the dollar. And of course, the money printing and borrowing, the debt, it doesn't bode well for a strong US dollar anytime soon, I wouldn't have thought. That's more on your fundamental side of things, of course, and that's not my go either, but it does warrant comment at some stage. And really, there's very, very little else to talk about at the moment, given that there's very, very little news happening. Let's therefore take a look at what I deem to be one of the most important things, and that is the dollar index. Because I'm a currency trader, I, of course, have a look at it's still the major currency, right? It's the one that's just about everything is pinned on. So let's have a look and see. And we're getting a little bit of a pause day on this incredible continuation of this bear trend that we've been in pretty much the second half of the year. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. We've spoken about this, not necessarily ad nauseum, but certainly at length. And as we get down to this range here, which to me seems almost inevitable, as does the 89 handle here, seems almost inevitable to me, but stranger things have happened. And anything can come out of the blue and change the fortunes of the US dollar. I don't see what that is, frankly, but it is what it is. Technically, I'm a fan of the 89 handle, and if I could trade this, maybe I need to just find a broker that does trade the dollar index. Some would say the euro US dollar is a proxy for this. Yeah, look, I don't necessarily conform to that, but let's go there anyway and have a look and see what the euro US dollar is doing. You would expect from this chart that it's been rallying and rallying substantially. Well, certainly that is the case. What about today, where we've got currently a doji situation? Okay. Let's show you the orders that I've got in the market before we go any further. If you want to follow these. Oh, you only see me. Oh, I'm sorry about that, guys. Why would you want to be looking at me when you can look at that? Thanks for letting me know, by the way. UK government says delighted to announce agreement in principle on all issues in the UK withdrawal agreement. Yeah, look, I don't know when that came out, Fad. All I keep seeing is that Johnson saying, yes, of course, I want to do a deal before the deadline, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. That's all I'm reading. But if that's the case, delighted to announce agreement in principle on all issues in the UK Euro withdrawal agreement joint committee. Fad, when was that, mate? I haven't heard that, I've got to say. And am I seeing that in the chart? That should be a positive for the pound, one would have thought. Not a lot happening there. Breaking news now. Okay. I'm not about to jump into the pound on that, I've got to say, but that would likely be a very, very positive thing for the pound. One would have thought, oh, there it is. Yep. Okay. There she goes. Got it. Interesting. If you're inclined to trade that, then potentially you can pick that up, because if that is the case, then this should rally and rally hard. To where? To where? Well, new high, one would think. That's not me. It's not the way I do things, but there would be worse things to do if that is indeed a fact. Interesting. Thank you for that, Fad. That is very interesting. Bloomberg are saying that there's probably some validity to it. One would think the market's just a little bit on the cautious side, because one would have thought that would just skyrocket on that news. Interesting. We'll keep our eye on that as we go forward. Of course, we will be trading the S&P 500 as a breakout in London. London. When the US market opens in just a little bit over an hour from now. Okay, where was I headed? I was headed towards the euro, was I not? Let's see how that's reacted to that news. If I can find the euro chart, there it is. And the 30-minute chart is telling us, let me get rid of that. It's no longer valid. Total mess there at the moment on the 30-minute chart. I wouldn't want to be trading that anytime soon. And a little bit of a rally going on, but yeah, nothing substantial at this point. All right, I was going to have a look at the euro in terms of turn it upside down on the dollar index, right? And like I said, many people will tell you that the euro dollar is a proxy for the dollar index, and why wouldn't it be? It makes sense for that to be the case, because at the end of the day, the dollar index is a weighted performance indicator as to relative performance, as to its value versus the 6 other majors. And for that reason, or not for that reason, the reason that the euro dollar is the most liquid and most traded currency pair, then it then makes sense that it's weighted in the direction of the dollar index. So I kind of get it, but it's not necessarily the case. There could, of course, be something outstanding that happens, like a Brexit announcement, that skews that completely out of whack. And that's why I don't think that's necessarily a good gauge as to whether it's a proxy for the dollar index or not. That said, would I like to be trading the euro at the moment? Answer, no. Why? Look, I think because we're very, very close to a resistance level, which is fairly strong. You could judge that it's in this area somewhere. There's certainly a cloud of a price in here between, let's say, 124 and maybe even 120. Yeah, let's say 122 and 124. That of course won't stop you making money on an intraday basis, but picking this up now, to my mind, is not the greatest thing in the world. The beautiful triple bottom here, and if you look at this on the bigger picture, it's a big higher low, sorry, a big higher high, big higher low, and now we've got the question mark. Are we going higher or are we not? I don't know. My gut feel is that it will be determined a lot by what happens with the Brexit deal, and that probably will determine not when but how far the euro can go, I believe, because the dollars, I just cannot get into the dollar. I cannot be a fan of the US dollar. So any opportunity to get long something against the US dollar is appealing, but I don't think euro is the one. I don't think pound's the one. I think they're higher risk than something like the Aussie or something like the CAD or something like the Kiwi, for instance. Speaking of which, in 30 minutes time, I'm having a look at the Kiwi. Oh, get back down there. I wanted to trade this long, but I want this candle to be maybe closing on the short side of the daily pivot or the underside of the daily pivot. That would be good for me, because that gives us a very, very nice insurance bar. This is not such a good insurance bar, but I'm keen to trade this long. Whether we've had a big enough retracement, of course, is the question. And it is a very, very shallow one at this point, and we do have an untested monthly pivot below us. So that's why the insurance bar is super important. If I don't get an insurance bar here, I certainly won't be trading this long. Why, you may ask? Well, the reason is, if we are headed towards the monthly pivot, which indeed is entirely possible, and we get a deeper retracement than we've got at the moment, this should in fact, let's look at the daily chart, this should in fact just continue to track towards that direction without putting in another higher high. So it will continue going lower low, lower high, lower low. If that is not the case, then I would argue that something else is going to happen, and that something else may well be a new high going back to trend, which is very, very strong, I've got to say. And again, going back to that dollar index, I can't see it really rallying too much at all. So want to have a look at this in 29 minutes from now, and if it is closing underneath the daily pivot, then I will put my entry not above that bar, but above that bar there. But I'll put my stop loss probably under here, underneath DS1 and that swing. So I'll be entering there, putting my stop loss under there. If this closes, let's say, underneath the daily pivot, which is at 70.36. So I want to see a close under 70.36, and I will look to trade that long. Okay, let's quickly go back to the pound and see if that is continuing that rally. Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. You've got to smile when you see that, because you've got a massive bar, an emotive bar at that, and it closes bang on the top of our range. Not a pip either side. Marvelous. That really fills you full of joy. Why? Well, because you've got that level exactly right. That's why. That's the hourly chart, of course. Okay, as I said, I'm not a buyer here. I'm not a seller here. In fact, I don't want to have anything to do with the pound at the moment, because that news that Fad pointed out to us that's just breaking, whilst it's perfectly valid, I'm sure, it only takes somebody else to come out and say, well, no, that's not exactly right. This is exactly the situation that we wanted to say. I don't know. It's too airy-fairy for me to get into, and I choose not to do so. Righto, let's probably spend a little bit too much time on Brexit, but it is really the flavour of the week, because there's very little news other than that going on. Of course, we've got the ECB press statement, bank statement, interest rate announcement, and the CAD, exactly the same scenario as well. So I'll be looking to those to give me some, I guess, direction, if you like. CAD in particular, I'll be looking at, because I think the CAD's got excellent credentials at the moment, and anything I can trade against it makes sense to me. EuroCAD in particular, and those of you who have been following this show and just about any other one I've been in for the last 6 months, will know that I'm looking long-term to get into this short, and by gee, that's not for want of trying, I can tell you. I'm pretty sure we've had 10 trades on this short. I haven't lost any money, but we haven't made any either. So that is a very, very frustrating scenario. At the moment, what I'm looking for is a big retrace back to the weekly pivot here. And if we were to get that, I'd be more than happy to look for an entry at this level. It would have to come obviously on a smaller time frame, because I won't get a setup there on the daily chart, not even the 4-hour chart, I wouldn't think. Maybe if we get a couple of lower highs here, I can find a little trade line that may exist, and we can get above the weekly pivot, consolidate back underneath it and retest it, that would be an excellent entry. We've already had a lower high that bounced off the weekly pivot. I missed that. That happened, late last night in US session, well after I went to bed, I would think. And that was probably tradable, that bar there. Not for me, because it's got a black body. I like to see a white body. Again, that insurance bar is what I'm looking for. And it didn't appear. Lewis, I see you got a question there. Hang on a sec, mate, and I'll get to it. Do I still do breakout trade? Look, I haven't, Lewis, but only because I haven't been in front of the charts. I still think it's valid. I'm because now my commitments have changed, and I'm up at this time of day. I tend not to have a look at the UK session too much, which is sad because that is kind of prime time trading for me. But my other commitments have kind of taken me away from there. And at this point in time, no, I'm not trading that. Does it have to retest always? Not necessarily retest, Steffi, but it has to pull back. So let me explain that for you. Retest is great, but pullback is necessary. So if we have a look at this area here, right, we see we've got a test of the trade line here, and we've pulled back away from it. So that's beautiful. That's exactly what we're looking for, that scenario there. Why? Because if price runs away from us here, who cares? We're not taken into the trade. And here we got it again. We approach the trade line, pull back away from it. That's classic. That's absolutely gorgeous. And if you have a look at this candle, that candle, and that candle, and then close your eyes real quick and go to this scenario and look at that candle, and what I'm asking for, isn't it exactly the same thing? Yes, it is. So what chart was on then? This one, EuroCAD. So I'm always looking for that to happen. And what it's all about, it's all about if price has got a momentum to the downside and the market is serious about going short, then it will. And price won't come back to here. But if the reverse is the case, then this becomes a very, very interesting area to trade, because it's here, this area here, that anybody who is short is going to be wrong. They're wrong here, and they know they're wrong here because that's where they've got their stops, right? But they're not the only ones who know where the stops are. So do the big guys, and so do a lot of other people who notice these things. So that's why I'm always looking for this particular scenario where price pulls away from the level. Everyone immediately, even if they haven't got their stops in that place at that time, maybe they've got their stops here if they're short, they're going to put them here because that's the next swing. And they're going to get a shock because they're just going to get hammered with this next move. And that, of course, is exactly what we'd be expecting to happen if price is unwilling to go in that direction with momentum. So it's a case of cause and effect. If this happens, then who cares? But if this doesn't happen, then that puts us in a pretty strong position if price goes back to that level. So I hope that makes sense. And that's what pretty much my day trading strategy is all about. In fact, that's pretty much what my strategy is all about. It's all about following what I believe the market is likely to do if it doesn't do something. Does that make sense? So it's not even counterintuitive. It's like I say, it's cause and effect. If A doesn't happen, then I believe B is most likely to happen. And that's why the insurance bar is so important to me, because if price keeps going in that direction, again, who cares? But if it doesn't, why doesn't it? Something else is going to happen. And that something else happens here. So that's exactly what I'm looking for on, what was the pair again? Kiwi US dollar. But it has to give me an insurance bar, because I just won't trade anywhere near the market. It doesn't suit me at all. Yes, Steffi, that's the way I trade. Yep. Don't trade momentum bars. I don't trade a bullish break of a weekly pivot. Doesn't interest me, because there's something else that I want, that I'm focusing on, and it's not jumping over the cliff with the lemmings, if you like. I don't like to follow the crowd. It's not my thing. Okay, that's that scenario. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, then just keep watching, because you'll see me do it often. That's kind of the way it works for me. What else am I doing? I'm in the Euro Swissy, I think. Yes, Euro Swissy. Now, those of you who were in the show last week would have seen this order that we put in the market. It was based on, here's another one, Steffi, right? Momentum bar, pullback bar. We entered here underneath that bar. Again, if we're not going to make a higher high here, what are we going to do? Generally, we're going to go in the opposite direction. It may take time, and it does take time often. And I do have a rule that states, if we haven't triggered, and we're on a 4-hour chart, if we haven't triggered after 6 4-hour bars or 1 day, then we cancel the order. I couldn't see any difference here with all of these candles, so I did replace this order. And this was just like and all of the analysts will tell you the same thing. This is like the market coiling up and getting ready to go. And again, went in that direction, but it couldn't take out the highs. And when that's the case, something else is going to happen. And it took out the lows. And here we find ourselves now having a little bit of a tete-a-tete with the daily pivot and the monthly pivot. So that's kind of par for the course, really. And if I wasn't in this trade, what would I be looking to do? I'd probably be looking to trade this long above that bar there. And actually even considering that as we speak. We've got 17 minutes to go in this candle. That one's a little bit, and because it's the euro and because we've just had news, it's probably a little bit tricky, but that's kind of where I'm at. Interesting that news has come out and only gone to that resistance level on the pound. I'm a little bit curious. In fact, I'm a lot curious, again, as to know why this hasn't continued to rally. Okay. Questions, more questions than answers. Look, I've really waffled on there for the last 25 minutes, and I hadn't intended to do that. In fact, I didn't think there was too much to talk about today, because it is Tuesday, which means it is the Scat Man, and he's in the room, and he'll be joining us very, very shortly in the US session to talk about all things crypto. And of course, I do note with interest, Shukri, are you able to talk to me at the moment? Let me see. Here he comes. Here he comes. Here comes the Scat Man.
I'm able to talk to you.
How you doing, buddy?
Are we supposed to do pivots on TradingView, right?
Say that again.
Are we supposed to do pivots on TradingView?
Oh, today, yes, we are. Yes, absolutely.
Don't forget that.
Are you able to do that? Is that good?
Yes. We'll do that.
Oh, all right, perfect. But we do have to talk about the current retracement, yeah?
Correct.
So we're going to talk about that also.
Let me tell you before we go off. You see, crypto is a very tricky market. It is a like 2.5 tier market. There's tier 1, which is Bitcoin. There's tier 1.5, which is like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Bitcoin Cash, the Bitcoins, and there's the small coins. And also, although you see the big coins going down today, you can ask our class members, the small coins are going up. And the good thing is, Fad and Simon have actually selected coins that went up almost 100% today.
Whoa, awesome.
So, you know, if don't look at the slot. So this is the thing about crypto. I mean, people are saying like, Simon, why are you celebrating? It's going down. No, that's crypto. He's looking at something else because it's always a cycle. So you need to adjust yourself in the cycle, see?
Cycles are wonderful things, you know. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys before, but I know a guy who's done 20 years of studying cycles, 20 years, 2 degrees in cycles, and he trades equities and has done very, very well out of it. Wanted to convert it to, or not convert it, but add currencies to it. When I was yakking to him, geez, a long time ago now. That would be a dozen years ago, and we lost contact. And I contacted him a couple of years ago, and he was still looking to do it, but we just haven't got together. I'd love to bring that to the table. Be awesome, because I think it is.
But you mentioned like
you can't deny cycles, right?
There's a wax on in crypto and there's a wax off, which is a wax on for the other side. So when the Bitcoins are waxing on, like Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that, a little bit later, there's a time phase shift. When that goes wax off, which is now, there's another wax on coming up. The smaller ones.
There you go. It's the way it's always been, you know.
And that's the way it's always been. And I mean, imagine the mining town is also something like that.
Yes, it is. That's it, right, mate.
I think it sounds like this. This is mining town economics. Okay, this is like totally insane.
Boom and bust, they call it. Boom and bust.
Yes.
All right, we got to get out of here, mate. I'll see you on the other side in the subscription side of the US session, guys. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I just waxed on a little bit there and didn't get too much into trading, but honestly, I'm on the cautious side of trading at the moment because I think there's a few traps around. We'll discuss that a little bit more later. Okay, guys, thanks for being here. Those of you who are subscribers, we will catch you on the other side.